Hi, I'm PK Mills, co-founder of the Longevity Path, and this is the Longevity Path podcast. I'm a tour guide and a facilitator, and we want this podcast to support all of you who are watching and or listening on your health and wellness journey. Welcome to the Longevity Path, a Canadian health and wellness podcast focused on helping you live the best version of yourself. Each episode, we're going to focus on one aspect of health and wellness. We're going to dive in deep and we're going to give you tools and strategies to help you improve your health, your well being from a mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual standpoint. So, why another podcast? Why the longevity path? Well, I'll tell you a story about how this all came to be. My career in the health and wellness industry started over 25 years ago, working at what was then a startup company in the sports nutrition industry. At that time, there were maybe 40 odd people working at the company. It was very much like working at a startup at Silicon Valley. You're wearing many hats, very fast paced, you're working long hours, and the company was very successful. And it was like being on a sports team because everybody was roughly the same age, came out of right out of university, and for many people, this was their first major career opportunity. And so no one was afraid to work 10, 12 hours in a day, working on weekends, traveling, doing whatever it took to help make the company successful. And that experience gave me the opportunity to work on product formulation, to learn how product marketing worked, to understand ingredients and formulations and all of the aspects that are involved in making a sports nutrition company successful. So, over the 11 years that I worked there, ultimately moving up to become a director of marketing, I gained a wealth of experience and a lot of contacts and networks and lifelong friendships and relationships that some of which are still with me to this day that have served me well over the course of my career. After leaving that sports nutrition company, I formulated, created, along with a partner, a strength and conditioning company that focused on athletes and helping them to improve their fitness, their mental resilience, their strength, their nutrition habits to make them better athletes and better overall performers. And that was a 14-year journey that was extremely rewarding. Worked with hundreds of different athletes and athletes at heart, individuals from as young as 8 years old to over 80 years old, helping them to optimize their health, improve their mindset, and enhance their physical well being. That company was called Strong Athlete, and it really, the name epitomized what we were all about. We were trying to make people stronger mentally, physically, and emotionally to help them be better athletes on the field or court or rink, but also to be better operators in their day to day lives. Over the years that I've been doing this, a lot of my clientele started to age and present with new health challenges. And in order to support them as best as I could, I wanted to learn more about what it means to be healthy long term, what it meant to live your best life as you got into your 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. And I really wanted to change the narrative around what it means to be healthy, not just from a performance standpoint, but from an overall holistic standpoint. And so that was a tremendous experience and gained a ton of knowledge and experience during that time that has I've taken with me in this new venture, the longevity path, where we're really trying to help Canadian companies and their teams be better performers at work and to be better performers in their daily lives. And so we're taking the principles that we apply to athletes, high level athletes, and high level competitors, and we're taking those same universal principles and we're applying them to being better in your day to day life and to be better within the work environment. Now, this wouldn't be a podcast if we didn't have an ad for something awesome. So, what is the Longevity Path? Well, the Longevity Path is a wellness platform that's dedicated to helping Canadian employers and their people take charge of their health and well being. We do this through on site wellness services that include workshops, seminars, massage therapy, other types of therapy, and we support our clients with digital wellness tools that include nutrition guidance, fitness guidance, mobility, meditation, breath work, all the pillars of health and wellness to support Canadian employers and employees in optimizing their health and their well-being. I've also been a lifelong athlete. Sports and PK have been synonymous since I was, I don't know, 5, 6 years old. And my first love was track and field. Um, Attended the University of Windsor, played football and competed in track and field, and ultimately became a All-Canadian in sprints while also playing football, starting cornerback for 3 years. So that was a very formative experience playing high level sport, going to university, studying and balancing the demands of training as an athlete with um, the demands of being a student. And when I started my career in the health and wellness space, I transitioned from those two sports into competitive bodybuilding. Competed in 2001, which is dating me a little bit, but just to show you that I've been around for a minute. And I learned a lot through that experience about what it takes to change the human body, the process of nutrition and dieting and the cardiovascular piece and strength training, all with the goal of changing the human body to a certain aesthetic that would be presentable on stage. And that taught me a lot about myself and what it takes in terms of self discipline to succeed at something like that. And also taught me a lot about how I would ultimately guide others in that space to help them achieve their goals from a physical and fitness standpoint. Um, Following that, I, for some reason, was influenced by one of the uh, one of the athletes at our gym to try competitive powerlifting. At this point, I was 39 years old, and I had already had my son and starting a, I'm busy with my career, but I wanted a competitive outlet. And he suggested, because of your background in power sports, you might be good at this. And so I gave it a shot and it actually worked out better than I thought. Ended up competing at the nationals in powerlifting twice, won two times, 2015 and 2018, and was also fortunate enough to compete at the 2018 World Championships, where I won a silver medal in the deadlift and a bronze medal in the overall. Now, while those credentials from an athletic standpoint sound pretty good, one of the things that I want you, the listener or the viewer, to keep in mind is that the powerlifting piece happening while I was in my 40s had a lot of challenges with it. I was balancing a family, a career, and I had to deal with a lot in the way of injuries as well. After the first nationals, I injured my left knee, and it took a year and a half before I was even able to train at a decent level again. And so navigating the mental challenges and the the roller coaster of emotions that you go through when you're dealing with an injury like that taught me a lot about how to relate to others when they themselves are dealing with injuries or pain or struggling from a physical or mental standpoint. So while frustrating at the time, it allowed me to empathize and relate to others through their wellness or fitness journey and to be able to offer them the guidance that they need at that time. One of the key moments for me that really shaped my perspective on health, wellness, and longevity, well, there are two moments really. The first was dealing with an eye injury in 2019. What seemed like a minor eye infection blew up into something much more serious, and I ended up losing some vision in my right eye. I'd gone away with my family to Florida, and I came back and I had what I thought was just a sty in my eye. And I got some drops and I thought, okay, this is going to clear up in a couple of days. And it didn't. And so then I went to the doctor and got some more intense drops, thinking that it was going to go away. And it didn't. And this, what I thought was a sty, turned out to be this infection from another planet. So that whole ordeal, it started end of March and went till about mid June. So several months, painful, frustrating. At times I wasn't dealing with it well. But in hindsight, it turned out to be a real gift because it gave me a lot of perspective and showed me how fragile our lives can be and how fragile health can be, how fast it can be taken away, how much we should not take it for granted. And so that was a powerful inflection point in my life. It was a real wake up call for me that I wasn't invincible, that my health wasn't always going to be there just because, and I really had to take ownership and take charge of my own personal well being, take it to another level. I had always been into performance. I'd always been an athlete. I had always been into exercise, but there were other aspects of my health and wellness that I really needed to focus on. And so having that injury, that eye infection allowed me to shift my perspective and think about health in more global terms. Now, fast forward just a couple of months in that same year, 2019, and my mother, who was dealing with some health issues at the beginning of the year, would ultimately be diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer. And obviously, that was extremely devastating to her, myself, and my father. Getting this news, we thought we were in the clear. She was dealing with something prior to that, and we thought we had overcome that, only to find out that this cancer was really the thing that was causing all of the other issues prior. So rounds of chemotherapy, October, November, December of 2019, that extends into 2020. And of course, to add to the problem, COVID now has come online and has made things even more complicated. And so, where we were able to support my mother in the hospital, and I could sit with her while she was going through a round of chemotherapy and hold her hand and be right there. um, uh, that changed. And so as of March 2020, we're no longer allowed to go into the hospital. We're dropping her off at the front door, and my dad and I are basically hanging out in the parking lot until she's gone through it. And so that level of familial support and mental support and social support that we were able to provide is now taken away. And now you're there with the nurses who were amazing, but you're by yourself. And so that's a very different situation. And so unfortunately, her health would deteriorate, and ultimately we lost her in September of 2020. This is a woman who has been a rock, my number one fan, an unconditional supporter of mine, um, for as long as I had been around. And to see this graceful, extremely strong, and gentle soul going through this struggle, going through what would ultimately become a death sentence was extremely painful to witness. And so that was a really, one of the hardest years of my life, navigating that and dealing with that and accepting that loss. In hindsight, and I share this with other folks uh, who go through loss, the loss ultimately is a gift if you frame it that way. And I was ultimately able to do that and realize all the gifts that she gave me just by having me and educating me and guiding me. But even in losing her, I realized how powerful going through loss can be and how it can teach you how to value life because it is finite. We're not here forever, and how not to take things for granted and how to treat life as the precious gift that it really is.
Can you discuss a common misconception about health and wellness that you've encountered in your work?
One of the biggest misconceptions around health and wellness that I see, and I think a lot of folks can relate to, is that it's this endpoint that I've got to get ready for a wedding in 6 weeks and I got to look my best. And once I do that, I'm done. Or my graduation's coming up, or my daughter's so and so is coming up, or whatever it is. It's this finite period where we're working toward this endpoint and we're going to do everything it takes to be our best self on that day. And then those habits that we put in place, we abandon them. And so I think the misconception is that there's an end date. And what I would say is that health and wellness is a lifelong pursuit. It's a lifelong journey. It's something that you do every day. It's something that you should consider valuable and important each and every day. And that doesn't mean you work out every day. It doesn't mean you have to train like an Olympic athlete every day. It just means that you prioritize yourself and your well being every day. It means some days you're taking a walk, other days you're in the gym, another day you are having a social gathering with your best friends, another day you're going for a massage. Um, Whatever it is, you've made wellness a priority in your life, and it's something that's with you all the time. It's not a start and at some fixed date. It's a lifelong journey.
Okay, that rolls perfectly into what's one simple yet effective wellness habit you believe everyone should adopt?
One of the simplest and most underrated and yet most powerful habits I think everyone should adopt is walking. And I laugh when I say it because even though I'm now like one of the biggest proponents of walking, there was a time when, and my better half can attest to this, where I was heavy into the bodybuilding world, and the extremes of bodybuilding will say, don't run when you can walk, don't walk when you can sit, don't sit when you can lie down, meaning your focus should just be on putting on as much muscle as possible. And so that's the only thing that matters. Now, I no longer have that mindset. I took some amazing principles from bodybuilding, but I no longer have that approach. And so I didn't like to walk back then, but now I walk almost every day. I realize how valuable it is, not just from a physical standpoint, which I'll touch on, but from a mental standpoint. Walking allows you to clear your mind, it allows you to calm your mind, and it's really, really important for your emotional well being, especially if you can get the opportunity to walk in nature or to walk by the water, which is also nature. Being in a forest or being by water, I think if you have the opportunity to do that, you should really take advantage of that as often as you can. And from a physical standpoint, just walking is great for your ankles, your knees, your hips. One of the best ways to mitigate or prevent back pain is by walking on a regular basis. So there's one thing I would recommend for folks to do if you're not already doing it, start walking.
What role does mental health play in overall wellness of longevity? Because you just kind of touched on mental health in walking.
Mental health is extremely important. At this point in time, we are in the midst of a mental health epidemic, really and truly. I mean, 1 in 5 Canadians will face a mental health challenge every year. That's over 20%. That's 20% of our population. And the numbers are probably higher because a lot of people don't actually um, report when they're dealing with a mental health issue. So I would not be surprised if those numbers were higher than that. And so it's really important to safeguard, protect, and value your mental well being. I personally do that in a number of ways, a few of which include walking, which I've mentioned is it's extremely powerful. Walking, um, trying to calm your mind and still your mind. I like to do that in a forest near my house, and it's a beautiful way to engage with wildlife. There are deer there. There are all kinds of birds. There's all kinds of interesting things happening while I'm there. And it's a mental reprieve from the chaos of city living and all the things that you have to navigate as an entrepreneur, a parent, all of those things that you are doing. So walking is extremely important. Breath work is as important to my own mental health practice, and working with one of our practitioners, the amazing Louise Fitzgibbon. She's taught me a lot in the way of how to breathe, how to improve my mechanics as I breathe, and how to use breath as a tool to regulate my emotions, to control my stress levels, to manage my overall well being. So, breath work has been really, really instrumental in supporting my mental health. And you would be surprised at how many of us don't breathe as functionally or as optimally as we could. And if we learned how to do that, that would improve our mental health tremendously. And then the third thing, which has been with me since I have been, I don't know, 6, 7 years old, is exercise. For me now, that's playing in the gym, so lifting weights. That's play for me, and I just feel so much better after a strength training workout. And then the next piece is rolling, which is a term used to describe sparring in jujitsu. And so that martial art, for me, you have to be so present when you're engaged in it. All your other challenges or problems are just put on hold, and you really have to focus on that, or you'll get choked out. So I really love the practice of martial arts, and that does wonders for my mental health. I go in, I have a class, and when I walk out, I feel amazing.
Can you discuss the importance of personalized approaches to health and wellness?
It's extremely important to personalize your health and wellness journey. And it's extremely important that whoever you're working with on your health and wellness as a coach or practitioner or advisor helps you to customize that plan, that program for what you need. Because everybody is at a different point in their journey and they're at a different uh, point along the path. And so understanding where you are, where you would like to go. It could be, I want to lose some weight. It could be, I want to bring my blood sugar down. It could be, I want to start walking more often, or I want to participate in a class. I want to improve my eating habits. Identify what it is that you want. Use help if you need, like work with a practitioner or a coach to help craft some goals, some objectives. Not that you're going to hit those objectives and then you're done, but something to strive toward. And when you get to those objectives, then you're going to reset your objectives and move forward again. So, identifying what it is you want and then building a schedule that is sustainable, right? That is extremely important because a lot of people, I've made the same mistake myself. We get excited about a new goal. We get excited about trying to achieve something. And we take on too much at once. So, what you want is to create a plan that is sustainable for you, that fits within your lifestyle, your family obligations, your work obligations, all the other hats that you wear, while still making it a priority. So, whether it means I'm going to walk 3 times a week, I'm going to take a class once a week, I'm going to make sure that I cook at home and prepare my meals as opposed to eating out most days of the week. Those types of goals, I think you start working that into an overall plan and you make that something that is really tailored to your needs.
What advice you'd give to somebody just starting out on their journey towards a healthier lifestyle?
My advice for anyone who is about to begin their health and wellness journey is to forget about the past and any mistakes that you made or things that you regret leading up to where you are now. Just park all that, accept where you are, and start to move forward. So if it's, I want to achieve a goal of losing weight or I want to improve my fitness level, that is all wonderful. And that's all great. Don't worry about what you didn't do before. Don't worry about how far you should have been at this point. None of that matters. What matters is that here you are, begin now, be kind to yourself, meaning give yourself credit for starting, and then hold yourself accountable and use tools, use help, use a practitioner or a coach to help you with that. Hold yourself accountable to a goal that you think is sustainable and achievable for you. But the number one thing is not to worry about what you did or didn't do in the past. Focus on where you are now and where you're trying to go. One of the main reasons why we've created the Longevity Path podcast is to give you, the listener, or you, the viewer, tools, strategies, concepts, principles that you can apply to your day to day so you can live the best version of your life, whether it's from a physical, mental, or emotional standpoint. We're going to bring in experts and practitioners from every aspect of the wellness space to really give you everything you need to be your best self. So, if you've made it this far, thank you for listening or watching. And we really appreciate your support. We plan to launch a podcast every month for the next few months. And then, depending on how that goes, we may decide to do this more frequently. So, our podcasts are going to be found wherever you can download podcasts. So, Apple, Spotify, etc. And we're going to be on YouTube as well. So, you can watch us on YouTube or you can listen on YouTube and you'll be able to find us there. We'll also share a lot of the content through LinkedIn as well. Because again, our company and our platform is really focused on helping Canadian employers and employees take charge of their health and wellness. So you'll see us a lot on LinkedIn, a lot on YouTube. We'll also be on Instagram as well. And if you enjoyed this content, don't forget to hit the like button or the subscribe button. And if you think there's someone in your network that would benefit from this content and what we're trying to do, feel free to share that with them. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your support, and we'll see you next month.